Welcome to your friendly neighborhood historian, where we discuss just enough history to inform, intrigue, and entertain. I'm Bill Petro. The history of Chinese New Year, the Lunar New Year, or Spring Festival. Chinese New Year is China's oldest, longest, and most important social and economic holiday. Chinese New Year begins on the first day of the Chinese lunisolar calendar. It starts this year on January 29th, though the celebrations continue for around 2 weeks. Chinese New Year is also popularly known as the Spring Festival and ends with the Lantern Festival on the 15th day of the month of the Chinese calendar. Chinese New Year's Eve is on January 28th. It's celebrated across China as a national holiday and in many other parts of Asia with people of Chinese descent. About 20 to 25% of the planet observes this holiday. In the West, it roughly corresponds to the end of the winter season and the beginning of Carnival, or Carnivale. Chinese New Year is the largest annual human migration in the world. More than 400 million people are expected to travel during the holiday season, half the number of the people on the Chinese mainland, almost 4 times as many as travel during the U.S. holiday season. The Chunyun period, or the Spring Festival travel season, typically starts 15 days before Lunar New Year's Day and can last for 40 days. Before the COVID pandemic, with a crisscrossing travel, 3 billion trips were taken. In 2023, it was 1.6 billion trips. This year, it's expected to be a new record of 9 billion passenger trips during the 40-day peak travel, last year exceeding even pandemic numbers. What is the date of the Chinese New Year? The Chinese lunisolar calendar, which dates back to the Shang dynasty in the 14th century BC, is different from the Western Gregorian calendar. This festival begins with the new moon, typically the second new moon after the winter solstice, and can occur on dates anywhere between January 21st and February 20th. The lunar cycle is approximately 29 and a half days, so the Chinese insert an interstitial month 7 years out of a 19-year cycle to synchronize with the solar calendar. Each year, the holiday begins on a different calendar date. You'll recall that Julius Caesar reformed the Roman calendar to set the new year on January 1st over 2,000 years ago. The Chinese general population didn't officially celebrate New Year's Day until 1912, though the celebration goes back 3,000 to 4,000 years. After Mao Zedong and the Chinese Communist Party came to power in 1949, they banned traditional New Year's celebrations. His Cultural Revolution between 1966 and his death in 1976 was intended to eliminate bourgeois elements like capitalism, religion, and traditional customs. Following Mao's death, Lunar New Year festivals were reinstated in 1980, and it was designated as a week-long public holiday in 1996. Well, what's the ancient legend behind it? The legend persists that Nian, a mythical beast who lived either under the sea or in the mountains, would terrorize children and farm animals in villages. The name Nian means year or New Year. The beast feared the color red and loud noises, so red lanterns and fireworks were used to drive the beast away. Some attribute the popular Chinese lion dance to the Nian legend. What are the practices around Chinese New Year? This festival observes many Chinese cultural distinctives, including cuisine, art, and martial arts exhibitions. For example, in my town of Colorado Springs, several martial arts dojos, including mine, have performed at the city auditorium. Other customs of Chinese New Year include red clothes, poems on red paper, and lucky money in red envelopes. Red signifies fire, which is believed to drive away bad luck, and fireworks add to the festivities. The celebration usually starts with a dragon dance. I've seen these in Hong Kong, featuring a dragon made out of silk paper and bamboo that is 100 feet long, winding through the streets atop Victoria Peak in Hong Kong, held aloft by a number of young men. The lion dance is also an exciting display, usually with two people animating the colorful animal. The food during the Chinese New Year celebration includes dumplings, spring rolls, niangao, which is glutinous rice cakes, fish, and fruit. Dumplings, or dim sum, represent wealth. It is believed the more you eat, the more money you will make in the new year. Technically, one is supposed to eat dumplings for every meal, every day of the festival, but most eat dumplings for the New Year's Eve dinner or for the first breakfast. Family reunion meals occur throughout the festival, typically starting with the New Year's Eve meal. The festival ends with the Lantern Festival, which may include lanterns and art, painted with the Chinese zodiac symbols, flowers, animals, and birds. Lighted candles are carried to an evening parade along with the light of the full moon. When a person returns home to their parents' house for the Chinese New Year celebration, they're supposed to bring home their spouse or girlfriend or boyfriend. If they don't have one, it is not unheard of to rent a girlfriend or boyfriend. Chinese New Year and business. Businesses in China typically take the first week of the Spring Festival off as a public holiday, and people travel to visit friends and family to celebrate the new year. The Chinese New Year is important across Asia, especially those countries with large Chinese ethnic populations, or those influenced by the culture of the Han Dynasty. This includes Taiwan, Singapore, Malaysia, Korea, Japan, and Vietnam, and companies will take at least a day or two off. The popularity of the Chinese New Year. With the spread of Chinese immigration, the festival was celebrated in other parts of the world, especially in cities that developed Chinatowns. The largest celebration of Chinese New Year outside of Asia is in San Francisco. The gold rush of 1849 brought the Chinese into the San Francisco area to work the mines and the railroads. As Chinese families were away from their own families back home, their local communities served as the basis for their celebration, dating as far back as the 1860s, including a parade in San Francisco. Singapore, which has a predominant percentage of Chinese people, about 76%, agreed with China on a mutual visa exemption effective February the 9th, 2024, the eve of the start of the Chinese New Year. For 30 days, any ordinary passport holder of either country can enter the other country without special visa requirements for activities, including tourism. Chinese immigration to the United States. I've worked for large Silicon Valley companies in the San Francisco Bay Area that employ many Chinese who celebrate Chinese New Year with a Chinese meal. One can appreciate the large Chinese immigrant populations along the Pacific coast of America. But where I live here in Colorado, it was the building of the transcontinental railroad system that brought Chinese workers in 1865 to build the Central Pacific Railroad across Nevada and California. Following the Burlingame Treaty of 1868, giving China favored nation status, Chinese immigrants grew to over 11,000 in 1868 and almost 15,000 in 1869. The Central Pacific Railroad employed over 12,000 Chinese laborers, more than 90% of its workforce. Consequently, there was a sizable Chinese population in the American West. We celebrate Chinese New Year in the major Colorado cities of Denver, Boulder, and Colorado Springs. Here are some Chinese New Year statistics to impress your friends and family. Number 1, it's the largest human migration in the world. It is also the most significant usage of fireworks on the planet. China produces 90% of the world's fireworks. 2 billion people at least celebrate this holiday. The second day of the festival is believed to be the birthday of all dogs, so people should be extra kind to dogs then. 1/4 of the world's population celebrates this holiday. 4.5 billion journeys are made as people return to their homes. 7 days is the typical amount of time people get off for the holiday. 8 billion red envelopes will be passed out to children and single young relatives, some of them electronically. Those red envelopes often have money in them. 19 billion text messages were sent on the holiday in 2009. It was a world record. 168 million Chinese attend the movies. Domestic comedies account for over 97% during Chinese New Year. Everyone grows a year older in China with the new year, no matter when you were born, no matter what day it was. $88 billion of revenue were generated by tourist income in 2024, surpassing pre-COVID numbers. 800 million view the Chinese Festival Eve television gala. It was the most, and continues to be, the most watched entertainment show in the world. Back in 1983, it had become the family ritual to watch this cultural variety show, kind of like the Ed Sullivan Show was back in the 1960s in the U.S. Guonian Hao. Happy New Year. Thank you for listening. I'm Bill Petro, your friendly neighborhood historian. You can find more details on this topic and others on my website at billpetro.com.